From Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Matot-Masei, communal ending. I want to discuss something that I've really never thought of before. And that is the question that was raised by the Or Chaim. One of my congregants brought it to my attention, Lisa Palumbo, and I'd like to explore how this question leads to a whole new theory in understanding Jewish governance and the book of Bamidbar. Question is, in Parshat Pinchas, last week's Parsha, Moshe asked God to find a leader so the Jews should not be katzon asher ein lahem roeh. Moshe said, Yivkod Hashem elokei ruchot l'chol basar. God is the master of many spirits. Let him find a person. Ish al hayda asher yitzei lifnei asher v'ol lifnei asher yotziei asher v'yei lo tiyeh adat Hashem katzon asher ein lahem roeh. He asked that God should make someone who would go out in front of them in battle, who could take them and bring them, etc., etc. He wants a leader. And God appointed Yoshua bin Nun, Yoshua, to be that leader. There's a strange thing, that whereas in the book of Devarim, in Deuteronomy, the book ends with a very strong promotion of the next leader of Yoshua. It's like Obama promoting Clinton as the next leader, to show that even Moshe endorses the next leader. But in the book of Bamidbar, although Yoshua is appointed, we don't find him anymore in this book. He disappears. He's appointed to be leader, and then everything goes on without him. So we have question number one. Why? So the question is, and the Or Chaim asked this question, what do you mean Moshe is asking, let there be a leader? Why is Moshe asking? What was God's plan? If Moshe hadn't asked for another leader, would the Jews have been like sheep without a shepherd? Would they have marched into Israel with no shepherd? What was the plan? What was the havamina? What was the thought beforehand? So Lisa wondered, was God thinking that there wouldn't be a leader? So let's consider that possibility, that Moshe dies, and not Yoshua takes over, but rather Moshe dies, and no one takes over. In that sense, if we think of the story later on, where the Jews asked Shmuel, they said, Shmuel, look, you're just like Moshe, and you're getting old. We'd like to have a king instead of you. And Shmuel said, what do you mean? Vashem elokechem malkechem. God is your king. God himself endorses this position and says, yes, that's true. Hashem elokechem malkechem. God is your king. How dare you ask for a king? But Hashem says, all right, go along with it. He'll appoint Shaul, David. They'll be the kings. So in this scenario here, Moshe, strangely enough, is taking on the position of the masses in the book of Shmuel who asked for a next leader. And this possibility that God was thinking that there wouldn't be a leader is in sync with God's position in the book of Shmuel and Shmuel's position in the book of Shmuel, that there needn't be another leader. God is your leader. Now, in fact, you say, well, what are you talking about? I mean, what are you going to have? You can have no sheep? I mean, no governance, no plan? Well, he says, no, there is a plan. There's a plan. You just don't need a leader. What's the plan? Well, look at the very beginning of this book of Bamidbar, and this we've pointed out in other videos. The beginning of the book of Bamidbar is a census. But it's important that in this census, v'yitchem yiyu ish ish lamatef, with you, Moshe, in this census, will be one man from each tribe. Ish rosh levadotavu, the head of the families. And who are they going to be? Ruvain, Shamua ben Zachur. Each tribe is going to have their own particular leader. In other words, a council of leadership is set up for Moshe to count the Jews. And presumably this council could take over when he dies. Aaron was replaced by Eliezer. This theory, the way it goes, a radical theory, I admit, is that Moshe didn't need a successor. He set up God as the leader. God set up the 12 Nesiim of each tribe as leaders, and that's the way it was supposed to be. The book would end without a leader, that's correct, and it does. If we look at the end of this book, there's more and more emphasis, as we pointed out on other occasions, on the leaders. We have a whole parsha addressed to the Rashi Matot. The laws of making vows, for some reason, are addressed not to the Jews, but to the Rashi Matot, the heads of the tribes, families. We have at least 3 problems that come up. We have the Midianite war, spoils after the Midianite war. We have the tribes of Reuven and Gad. They want to stay on this side of the Jordan. We have the problem of Matot-Masaay, which comes in 2 parts. The daughters of Sphard-Beth, they want land, and then the tribes of Manasseh, that they have a problem with this arrangement with the daughters. And actually, there's a 4th section as well, giving out the land. In each case, the Nesiim play a prominent role. In the case of the giving out the land, he says, these are the names of the people who Yinchalu lachem et haaretz. Elazar Kohen Yeshua bin Nun. Yes, Elazar and Yoshua, there is one mention of Yoshua here, but you have the names of the leaders of the tribes. But in the story of Midian and the Reuven and Gad, and the story of the Benot-Slavchad, the daughters of Slavchad, it's just Moshe, Elazar the Kohen, and the Nesiim, the heads of the tribes. Each case, it's just them. Because the book shows that, look, we could end this, we could manage this, we can do this without a Yoshua. We could do it simply with the Nesiim. There would be a tribunal, there would be not a triumvirate, but a 12-umvirate. There would be 12 leaders who would be leading the Jewish people, the council of 12 elders, or whatever you want to call them, the Nesiim, and they, as heads of the governors of the tribes, they would lead the Jewish people. Now, from this perspective, if we look at the end of the book of Yoshua, what happens there? The Zakenim harichu yamim achar Yoshua. The elders, they lived for a long time after Yoshua. In other words, Yoshua was not replaced by an individual, he was replaced by no one. Now, usually I'm very critical of that. Say, look at the difference between Moshe and Yoshua. Moshe, when he passes away, as Rashi says, he's thinking about the community, tzorchei tzibur. He's worried that they will be like a sheep without a shepherd. But Yoshua doesn't appoint anyone. What's wrong with him? What happened to him? What did he do? From this perspective, Yoshua was following God's plan. Moshe got this strange idea that someone else should take over. Yoshua says, what do you mean? You have the elders. In the Parshat Balotcha, in this book itself, you have the elders were appointed, 70 elders. You've got the 70 elders. Maybe that's the council. Maybe it's the Nesiim. You have 2 different structures that could take over. The Sanhedrin, the 70, 71, 72. Or you have the Nesiim, the 12 leaders from each tribe, plus the lower leaders of each family, Roshei Avot, Roshei Matot. You have a plan. And that's what Yoshua does. He says, fine. God is your leader. Give you a great speech, a grand speech before I pass away. Make sure you follow God. And now you have your leaders. You have a governmental system. You don't need a leader. God is your leader. Go ahead. Go at it. Yoshua is following along the philosophy of Shmuel. Finally, we may ask a more fundamental question about who was Moshe Rabbeinu. You see, if Moshe Rabbeinu was not only Rabbeinu, our teacher, but he was also Moshe, the leader. Basically, by Hebrew Melech, the rabbis say that Moshe was some kind of a king. Then surely, if he goes away, we need a new king. We need a new manhig, a new shofet, a new leader, a new judge. And they appointed Yoshua. But if we say no, Moshe was never the leader of the Jewish people. A radical suggestion. He wasn't the leader. He was their prophet. The Jews are led by prophets. Yeshua died. There was no particular prophet to take over. So the government system, which was in place, the elders of the Nesiim, takes over. Didn't work out too well. It may not be a very wise system, as God himself concedes the Jews need it, they want a king, they need a leader. The period of Judges was an immensely unsuccessful period. Moshe is right, they'll be like sheep without a shepherd. From a practical point of view, theoretically, Moshe was not their leader, he was their teacher. He was the prophet. And you can't appoint a prophet. It doesn't exactly work that way. God obliged Moshe and he gave his spirit to Yehoshua. But the truth is, Jewish people, our king is God. Our system of government is a tribal one, or perhaps one but led by a court of 70 elders. That's our system. Unfortunately, we have to add on top of that system some sort of outside influence of the idea of kingship that we learn from other nations. We impose that on top of it. But ideally, Hashem Elokechem Malkechem, God is our leader. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth congregation for a discussion of this week's Parsha, various books of the Torah. Join us each week for a discussion of the holidays. We have many videos on Tisha B'Av, how-to videos. Just check them out, see them. And thank you for joining us once again, the Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth congregation. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit asb.org.